Coming back to Colgate in on tap trolling, saying maybe we should just use, in parentheses, I plus j minus k divided by the square root of 3 as a base system of math. Ugh. Ugh. My brain. So, alright, so Node Runner said, I think the main reason why standard... Wait, I want to move this out of the way. No, actually, I want to move this over here. Sorry. I just got into fixing this bit. I don't think I need this anymore. No, I don't need my cheat sheet. I'm in the very last ending. So, Node Runner said, I think the main reason why standards can't be changed, we're talking about standards of like having just a single time zone, like not having any time zones or changing from Fahrenheit to Celsius or whatever, something like that. He's saying why they can't be changed in America, and I would argue with him that in that point that it's not just America, it's in many parts of the world. There is big difficulty in making those changes. But he's saying it is because it will be immediately become politicized and polarized, like when masks became a thing. He really didn't think that there would be anything political about wearing a mask. There we go. I do agree with you on the polarization question, that is an issue and it becomes difficult to standardize stuff or make political changes. I do agree with you that like polarization, well, polarization in itself, I don't see an issue with. Like, it's flattening of a curve, right? Polarization, if we look at it as like the view on any question, like masks or whatever, we end up with a bell curve of what people thinks about it, right? And if wait, what's my point here? Yeah, like polarized is just that bell curve being flattened and the extremes moving further away and less people being in the middle, less people agreeing at the middle point or whatever, and people moving out to more extreme sides. That's usually how polarization works, right? And I would argue if we had better discourse between the two extremes or whatever, there we go, extremes over here and here, if we had better discourse, better discussions between the two, and understanding of each other's points of view, I would argue that I'm not sure that polarization is such an issue. Because the polarization means like a greater amount of viewpoints. Like it comes from my individualistic attitude, right? Every individual has their own view of something. And the more polarized, the more varied the possible views are. I would say like what I think it was, I don't remember, it was talking about, I think it was Banana Waffle Monkey who said the issue that he was thinking about yesterday was the difference between debate and discourse, and that is more problematic, right? If you have more discourse and discussions between the different viewpoints, then polarization might not be such an issue. But that's just me hypothesizing. What I really wanted to talk about was the politicized. And my argument is that everything that is that we do in public, like part of the society, everything is political. Like, of course, wearing a mask is political, right? I've heard arguments about COVID, like a lot of people was thinking, well, who are dying? It's the weak people who are dying. Let them fucking die. That argument I've heard like a lot of times. And for those people, wearing a mask doesn't make any sense, right? It's going against their worldview and what they want to see happen in the world. So, I mean, it doesn't become politicized. The question is a political question from the beginning. What should we do? Should we follow that kind of thinking, or should we follow the thinking that we want to keep people alive and stop the spread and lessen the medical institutions, the hospitals overload, like being overcrowded? Should we wear a mask to flatten that curve, right? It's two different views, two different viewpoints on the question on why one should wear a mask. And so, like, even if you agree with me, which I'm guessing Node-RUNNER does, that we should be wearing masks, that is my political view, and I'm guessing that is Node-RUNNER's view as well. But that doesn't make itself evident. It's still a political question, like that people have to agree about. Like if we want it to be a rule, I mean, if we want it to be a rule that wear a mask in public, if we want that rule, it is a political question. I mean, it's also, you could see it just as an ethical question that me personally, I feel it's a good idea to wear a mask in public. I've been bad at doing it myself because I'm never out in public, and when I've gone out, I've forgotten to bring the mask. And I mean, that's me being a dick, right? On the other hand, I know that I'm not infected, right? Since I don't meet any people. When I have gone out, and I've taken great care not to, like, heavy breathing or sneezing or anything like that. You know, I've been taking great care, but I would argue that that is not enough. From an ethical point of view, I would argue that I've been a dickhead and I should be wearing the mask. And I've just been terrible at it. But that's like an ethical question. That's not a political question. And that's just about me. That's not about everybody else. If I want to tell everybody else what to do, then that is a political question, right? Node-RUNNER says, what people think about if we should wear masks or not is political. But Node-RUNNER thinks it's plainly obvious that wearing a mask prevents the spread of disease, and there are diseases that are being spread. Yes. That is the case. The thing is, not everybody agrees that halting the spread of the disease is something that they want. Some people just want to watch the world burn. Right? And if they want to watch the world burn, they would argue for not wearing a mask. I mean, that is me straw manning their point of view. Their point of view is not they want to watch the world burn. It comes from a weak and strong. It comes from objectivism, right? It comes from the Ayn Rand kind of thinking, right? It comes from that type of thinking. It's like, well, I'm not in any danger of this disease, probably. So fuck everybody else. Let's just let the disease do its thing. Or maybe they come from, it's the will of God. Who are we to, like, they can come from many different, I'm not arguing with you that it prevents the spread of the disease. I'm arguing with you that some people don't care. Some people actively want the disease to be spread. That is the political question, right? That is why people get pissed off and why they refuse to wear the mask, because that is their worldview. It's how they view this issue. And they feel, and I understand why they are pissed. I mean, they're stupid. Well, no, that's me strawmanning again. I don't agree with their point of view. I think wearing a mask is the best idea. I think not spreading the disease is the best idea. That's what I want to see. But I understand them having a different point of view, being pissed off that people are just stepping on them and assuming that their point of view is not valid. Right? Like I feel when society don't adapt to my views, I get pissed off, right? Well, I get upset in some way or other. I might even consider what's it called? Civil disobedience. Is that what it's called? Like, I might even consider that for some questions. Ooh, I like this because Nodrunner also disagrees with my definition of polarized. I'm pretty sure I'll be convinced here because it didn't sound very good when I was talking about my definition of polarized. But I'm curious. Let's see what you say, Nodrunner. At least how I'm using it. We have different definitions. Polarization is more like extreme political prejudices and emotional thinking rather than evidence first. All right, let me do that one more time. So, polarization is more like the extreme political prejudices and emotional thinking rather than evidence first. I mean, I'm thinking that I might just have to agree with you straight out of the bat on that part. Like, when do people become... Yeah, when we talk about polarization, if we talk about the bell curve again and we talk about the two ends of the bell curve, the people are screaming the loudest and being the most upset, and just... That is emotional, right? That's purely emotional. Usually the people ending up on those extremes are being more polarized. But also, and those, I agree with you that extreme political prejudice, I agree with that, and emotional thinking, if we're looking at the very ends of the bell curve, right? But also, that is the vocal minority, right? He also says that, yeah, it's called civil disobedience. Thanks. Those are usually the vocal minority, and most people, like the ones that comes from the middle and spread out a little bit. Like if we take these people, the majority of the people who might be polarized, moving a little bit extra further this way or this way on the question. Like, is that necessarily more prejudice, more emotional thought? Or is it just more... Could one see it as more analysis from these kinds of people, more thinking about it, being more actively involved in the political decision making? I'm not sure about that, but it's... yeah. It's not as easy to just say it's good or bad, I think, polarization. Because if everybody thinks the same and instead of flattening this curve, if we point to normal distribution, then everybody, like the most of the people, has one single view on a political issue. Everybody agrees. And that might be a good thing. Then also we start stepping on the people who don't agree. Like they become marginalized. That is, I think, the problem I have with the opposite of polarization. The opposite of polarization is ideologicalization, where everybody thinks the same and everybody should think the same. So everybody who thinks differently are not welcome anymore, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. Nodrunner says, and back to my original point. We can't change standards because it will become an emotional issue rather than a logical one. That I do agree with. Yeah, I have nothing to say about that. Yes, emotional issues. People... But that is, for me, that is not like, it's not an issue of politics. It's not an issue of polarization. The issue of it being an emotional one is an educational one, right? And not being practiced in political discourse, because we can practice political discourse. I mean, as I said, I get emotional, right? We all get emotional in political issues because we feel that our views are the best views and they should be the ones that govern how stuff works. But the more we practice, the more disagreements we have, the more of those discussions we practice, the better we become at evaluating and making our own personal political decisions and viewpoints, and moving more towards not letting our emotions run amok, but actually discussing them and analyzing and thinking about them. Whatever, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a logical... You don't have to come from a logical point of view, right? I would argue that some people that base their political viewpoints on religion or whatever, that's not based on logic, but it's based on a system of thought. So there we go. So instead of having an emotional issue, we can have a system of thoughts issue, right? They say, well, the Bible says this, therefore well, maybe that is a logical system, I suppose. Just a different logic systems than the one that I would use. That's interesting. I think we missed out on that point earlier. I like that. Different logical systems, like different guidelines and rules. Colgate Innotap says, my mom makes your mom's political views. Yeah, I have that issue as well. With, like, it becomes emotional because we identify with our politics. Because that is how we brought up, right? My mom taught me how to think about things, so now I think in those ways. That is my system of logic, right? The one that my mom and my school taught me. Alright, let's see, what does Elisa have to say? And the camp leader in her hut, I heard, and at supper, at least I'm not the camp's biggest disgrace now, yeah. This Semyon here, it's the Dick Semyon. He's being mean to people. I looked at her carefully. The pioneer was smoking the cigarette casually and smiling, so complacently as if the whole world has already acknowledged her rightness. I'm quite sure that I might have misunderstood you, Colgate Innotap, what you meant by my mom makes your mom's political views. It's like, my thinking is that a lot of people have their political views informed by someone else. They haven't done the work, so to speak. They haven't done the analysis themselves of the question. They just had someone tell them what to think. I mean, it's a bit of a... It's a little bit of a straw man, but you know what I mean. Like someone you look up to with authority or whatever. If they say this is the way something works, like this is my views, and then they give any reason, and you have your emotional response which lines up with that, because your emotion, like we're a social creature, right? And you have your mom, for example. It's like I've said, oftentimes a person's political views are completely dependent on their parents' political views. Most of the time it's just a carbon copy, right? But sometimes also it's the complete opposite, depending on how well you get along with your parents and stuff like that. But it becomes a social thing, right? My dad can beat up your dad. It's a social and emotional thing rather than logical one, right? Rather than an analytical one, I suppose. And you, I see, are only thinking for yourself, says the pioneer. What are you talking about? No? Her expression changed. She even panicked a little and choked on the smoke. Yeah, it's a joke about kids in the sandpit arguing about whose dad is the best. Yeah. That's what I thought. And that is like, what follows is that kids believe what their parents taught them. But you're right, you were never the worst one here. I'm not so sure about myself, though. You're talking so, well, coolly. Now, praise from her was certainly all that I needed. Or maybe... Listen, I started, smiling one of my studied smiles. While we're at it, do you want to meet for a drink, so to say? You got any? Pioneer's eyes flashed. I can always find some for a good comrade. Oh, flashback, flash forward, something like that. Although it all started like in a bad novel that's printed by chapter in a gutter newspaper, it turned out completely different. Although it all started out like in a bad novel that is printed by chapter in a gutter newspaper, it turned out completely different. The memories blended together in a continuous haze of an orange-red tone, like a yellow brick road leading to the Emerald City. I know that reference. Though Dorothy grew up a bit and earns a living by prostitution. Because instead of studying diligently, she was all caught up in dreams of a magical land. The Cowardly Lion got hooked on meth and was shot in a firefight with the police. Now the Tin Man had a pretty good life. He's become a hitman. And Scarecrow didn't change at all. He got himself a stable, low-paying job in an office with convenient working hours from 9 to 6 and an absence of career opportunities. There probably wasn't any magical city ahead in the first place. An endless road with no destination or meaning. You know, at that time, he really was talking about something like this. Tried to warn me, at least. I wasn't listening, and as a result, I ended up as the only one to get stuck in this damn Mobius strip. Right, I missed something. There probably wasn't any magical city ahead in the first place, yeah. An endless road with no destination or meaning. At the time, he really was thinking about something like this. Tried to warn me, at least. Not sure who this he is. Yeah, we're back here. She was sitting nearby and squinting with discontent. Hey, hello. Hello, Earth is calling. Okay, what's wrong? Like I can't take a moment to think already? Oh, it should lead to a result. What have you got? I disagree with that. It doesn't necessarily need to lead anywhere. Being too result-oriented can lead to mental issues. Well, what have I got? A lack of results. A lack of results is still a result, says Semyon. Good point. Genya painfully pinched me on the shoulder and moved a meter away. Wait, was that it? And then she appeared. No, Genya. Genya have always been in Sovionok. But at that time I saw my Genya for the first time. Now this is a flash forward. This has got to be the future, right? This has got to be crazy ass torture dude Semyon somehow got stuck. Well, one of the versions of torture Semyon got stuck in this loop. And he found his own ending by pulling them, like meeting this Genya and waking her up so she remembers every loop as well. I'm guessing. Like in the harem ending where all the women woke up as well. It became real. Maybe I don't remember what happened before and what came after that. Well, those several days will forever remain in my memory. Several days? I've already realized clearly that this is not my frozen world. Understood that an eternity later, I had again, as I had once before, managed to fall into another. Managed accidentally, as if for a second the orbits of two planets crossed and I only had a moment. Node Runner says, so my RV is parked under trees and the snow has turned to ice. I'm worried that after it starts to melt off the branches that the ice chunks will fall on my roof and break through my plastic vents. Well, if you're worried, then I'm guessing move the RV, shake the branches, and then back up again. Seems like a hassle, but I suppose that is what you've got to do, I'm guessing. Because wrecking the roof or the plastic vents seems like it would be terrible. Since it's still winter, well, I mean, if it starts raining or snowing, you get a lot of snow inside. If I were a second late, they'd fly away from each other forever, getting farther and farther apart with stupendous speed, yeah. Node Runner says, I was thinking about moving. It's 2 a.m. right now. Well, if it's 2 a.m., you don't have to do it right now. You can do it tomorrow in the sunlight, right? Making life a little bit easier. Maybe you enjoy doing work at night, then this world is as lonely and empty as the previous one, he thinks. But the main thing in it is that it's different. And there are things here unfamiliar to me. Oh, this is really important. It It is so important for me. Yeah. For example, Genya sitting not in the library, but on the canteen's porch. After all that's happened, I was just not capable of sarcasm. Hi, I said as I came closer, but still stopping at a safe distance. Genya raised her eyes to me. Her face showed that she didn't expect to meet someone here. I? And her voice didn't sound like usual. Not that I would have mistaken the librarian's intonation for anything else. Decided to go get to supper earlier? No, I don't know. When's supper again? She pattered. What do you mean, when supper? Her answer left me in a stupor, and I broke into a smile, though a chill ran through my whole body. Ah, no, sorry. Of course I know when supper is. It's just, well... Genya got completely confused and stared at her feet. It seemed like the last thing she wanted right now was to be here. But she didn't have enough resolve to leave. It was strange, but didn't scare me at all. On the contrary, I was happy because something new beyond the scope of the pattern has happened. Are you alright? I asked the stupidest questions possible in this situation. What did I even expect to hear in return? Yes, thank you. For what? I don't know. Well, for being worried. Well, A faint tinge of discontent appeared on her face, but disappeared immediately, and Genya slowly got up. I got to go. Wait, but weren't you on your way to the canteen? I'll come later. I've got other things to do. Okay. I didn't stop her, but I decided to follow. God knows how long it has been since anything like that has happened to me. On my very first few attempts here, maybe. Genya came to the square and quickly went in the direction of the library. She never turned around on the way, so I didn't even have to hide much. When the door shut behind her, I froze in hesitation. So what's next? Should I knock and go in? But what will I tell her? One wouldn't need to be a detective to realize that I've been following her. I was brought out of my thoughts by Electronic, who appeared before me, as if out of nowhere. What came with the checklist? Yeah. I just decided to visit the library. Got it. I won't distract you then, he said, and I prepared to leave already. Wait. Don't you think that lately Genya has been, well, behaving strangely, I guess? Electronic looked at me carefully, appraisingly even. Node says, I'm not sure I can move in this snow and ice. The branches are really high up, and I'm not sure how I would shake them. If I moved, I wouldn't have hookups to water, electricity, no computer, no internet, no heating. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking, like... Sure, if I can move in the snow and ice. The branches are really high up, and I'm not sure how to shake them. Can't you just shake the tree? Yeah, because moving sounds like weird, right? Losing all those things? Was thinking I could cover the vents with something, but it's probably dangerous to climb on the roof in the winter. Well, yeah, but not as dangerous in the sunlight. Yeah, covering seems like a good idea, like a protective whatever. Colgate Taps asked, did you notice that sometimes his name is Semyon and sometimes Pioneer with red font? Oh. No, I did not. When talking to Genya, I did notice the difference in behavior and characteristic, how Semyon was different from the Pioneer, right? He's behaving differently. No, not here. The Pioneer said, are you all right? Simeon says for what? Good looking now to Colgate in on tap. How am I going to shake a tree? It's huge. Well, I mean, I don't know how big it is. I mean, like taking your foot and just pushing it, starting to bending it back and forth, you know? Like every movement is, they become bigger the higher you get. So it's all about what's it called? The rhythm, right? Increase brute force outputs, says Colgate on top. Yeah, either like a hard, like there's two different ways to do it, I'm thinking. One is like slamming it hard and having those vibration run throughout the tree and hoping that that will work, or just bending it back and forth and like having those movements add together so it starts swaying in the wind. Banana Waffle Monkey says, "Oh, cool! I have mod status." I mean, sure, cool. Nodrunner thinks it's not going to work with these trees. Doesn't hurt to try. Well, maybe it does hurt a little bit to try. Being out in the cold hurts, and maybe you get a splinter and whatnot. And also, just doing work maybe hurts a little bit. Banana Waffle Monkey says, "I will avoid the Stanford prison experiment." Yeah, it's been ever since I had to what's it called? Approve some messages. I wanted to mod you, I just didn't know how to do it. And then I figured it out. It was super easy. It was just 2 clicks of a button. So I modded you all so you can, if the chat wants to tell you not to type anything, you can just fix it yourself and say, well, I allow that I type this. Or something like that. I don't know. Like, just don't ban anyone if you're allowed to do that. No banning. Banning is not allowed. Except if someone is super annoying. But I don't think anyone will be annoying enough. Doing work is painful, yes, says Nodrunner. I agree with that. Doing work is painful. So yeah. If anything, I'll probably accidentally ban myself, says Banana Waffle Monkey. Oh, can you ban yourself? That's interesting. But yeah, that's work. It's probably less work to just put some kind of protective stuff over the vents, I suppose. It's probably easier. Less work. Just don't fall off and break your leg. It's a little bit more dangerous. Colgate in on tab says, "Is it okay to add words that only bots use?" Wait. Is it okay to add words that only bots use to auto-modded words list? You might miss on some free followers, though. I have no idea. I mean, the bots use, like, it's weird. I don't even know where to find these lists. I haven't really bothered about it. I've just banned the bots when they show up. They aren't that often. And I don't want any free followers. Like, I'm not looking at any numbers. Like, we are 4 people here right now. Talking, interesting. Why can't I ban people, asks Nodrunner. I'm guessing since all of you are mods, and you probably can't ban another mod. I'm guessing. Or, did you try to ban someone but it didn't work, or did you ask why you can't ban people? It's because, well, I like disagreements, right? I do like them. I want to talk about them, talk them through. So people who are like mean or whatever, it's probably just a disagreement of some sort that we can talk about. I mean, if someone comes in and starts spamming, I mean, feel free to ban that dude. Like the bots, feel free to ban the dude bots as well. It's like people you consider stupid or disagreeing with you. Don't ban those people. 3 mods per 4 viewers. That's a good ratio, says Banana Waffle Monkey. And Banana Waffle Monkey also promises not to ban Spinoza or anchovies. Nice, that's exactly what I want to hear. No banning of anchovies or Spinoza. Or even Ayn Rand. Banana Waffle Monkey also says, I wouldn't have. He was mean, but not like TNC breaking, I think. Our terms and condition. Alright. Yeah, like, if someone is being mean, don't ban them. Just ask them to stop being mean and ask, how are you feeling today? Why are you being mean? That's like, I felt like the dude yesterday, he was being a little bit mean, a bit rude, right? And I felt I was the Muslim or the troll. I'm not sure if he was actually Muslim or if he was a troll. But I felt I was antagonizing him more than I needed to. Like, if he was a Muslim, I would love to talk some more with him, because I have many disagreements with religious people, right? I like talking to religious people, getting their point of view. Like, I remember this one Muslim I had, I think I've told this story before, but I had this Muslim that I met like weekly, had weekly meetings with. And we were talking and talking. We were talking about religion, right? And I like to put God as the antagonist in religious lore. Like, God is an asshole, right? So I did that with him, and he just plainly agreed. Yeah, of course he's an asshole. Like, I am a slave to God. That was his perspective, and that was such a refreshing perspective. Like, he said, well, yes, God is an asshole, obviously, was his attitude, right? But I need to be a slave to him, right? He is my creator. He is my father or whatever. It's my duty to be loyal to him and do whatever he wants. I found that a super refreshing idea. Still, we disagree on the premise of a God caring about our anything we do, like morally speaking. Colgate in on tab says no banhammer. Yeah. Nodrunner says, I believe you need to moderate your chat as part of the terms of service. Yeah. I'm doing that. I feel like I don't know the terms of service, not really. I haven't read them, but I feel like like if you're not properly banning people, Nodrunner says, it could get you as a streamer in trouble. Muslims and trolls are not mutually exclusive. No, I'm not saying that. Colgate in on tap. But like, he was like, when he asked me to start another Xorg thing, that was obviously trolling, right? He probably knew that it would fuck stuff up for me. That's what he asked me to do, right? And I was curious. Like, I wouldn't do any RM-RF things if he was asking me to do that. Starting a new Xorg from within an Xorg, that's... Even if he was trolling, that was kind of funny. He just ruined the stream for a little bit. Like, OBS stopped working. It was kind of funny. No, I don't think you were here yesterday when he was screwing around Nodrunner. There was this dude yesterday, like before my lunch, yesterday evening for you. So we are talking about different people. I don't remember anyone talking about Xorg. No. He wanted me to open a terminal and run startx, so I did, because I had no idea what would happen. It was an interesting experiment. The stream died and everything. It was funny. Interestingly, it didn't start with my... He was moving too fast, and he was a bit rude. And he couldn't articulate an argument. Well, no. If he came from like an Islam background, maybe he was articulating an argument from his point of view. No Donor says, the dude I was talking about banning was just an asshole coming in talking shit. Oh yeah, that we had another asshole coming in just talking shit. Some of them, like he was just being mean to me, calling me, what was it, like a Rasta and this and that, whatever, right? And like, maybe I should look into the terms of service, because I didn't feel like banning him. Like if he started spamming, I felt that he was just an asshole. He didn't start spamming. It's still like, why was he like that? I'm curious, right? Why was he being an asshole like that? And to get him to open up and talk about his issues, because my assumption is that there are some psychological issues. If you need to feel good about yourself, just being mean to random strangers on the internet. So maybe we can help that asshole out, possibly. That's my hope anyway. I'm not very good at it, unfortunately. Banana Waffle Monkey says he couldn't articulate an argument in a way that addressed the questions, at least. Yeah, that discussion yesterday was moving way too fast for me to catch along. Like we were jumping from one thing to another thing. Like another thing. I should have asked him to just slow down so I could, like I've said before, I'm not super fast. I need to mull things over a little bit. Nodrunner says, I can appreciate disagreement and debate. I'm not super looking for debate, more discourse, more trying to understand and present my worldview, not to tell anyone that their worldview is bad, just that I disagree with it and why I disagree with it, I think. But there's a difference between that and just being a dick for the sake of it. I agree, I totally agree. But maybe someone being a dick for just the sake of it, one could ask, why are you being a dick just because the sake of it? And maybe we could move it towards a disagreement and a discussion instead of someone just being a dick. Nodrunner says if he was saying some words that are not allowed based on the terms of service, you would need to 100% need to ban. Oh, good looking out, Nodrunner. That's good to know. I didn't know that. I would have guessed that if that was the case, that it was just an automatic ban from the system. Why put that on me? Why not, if that was the rule, like if there were some, maybe like if they spell it differently or whatever, maybe they become insta banned. If someone comes in, says a word that is not allowed, then they maybe become insta banned. Someone else comes in and say the same word with a different weird spelling or whatever, then maybe I have to ban them. Good looking out, Nodrunner. Yeah, they might spell it differently. I mean, if that's the terms of service, I suppose let's not rock the boat. Personally, I don't. Like, I don't get offended by, well, I get upset by some like some ways people use words, but I would never want to ban them from, like, I wouldn't want to ban someone. I can spell it with an emoji as well. Personally, I wouldn't want to ban people like that. Like, we're talking about like we were talking about that earlier. Pushing people out to the emotional edges. Like someone just using a word and then we ban them for it. It's not very inclusive, is it? It's exclusive. And it makes people have emotional reactions, right? Instead of moving towards a more rational discussion, if we want to call it that. Colgate In on Tap says banning words is bad. I mean, yeah, he also says context matters a lot. I agree with the last part. Like, in some contexts, I would argue that banning words is a good idea. In some contexts. I just wish I didn't have to have this be one of those contexts. While in another stream, for example, it might be a very good context. Like, I'm pretty sure I've put in somewhere that you have to agree that this is an adult place, right? Or something like that. It's for adults. Or whatever. I would want to have, like... Yeah, there we go. I would want, like, a trigger warning. If you get triggered by stuff, maybe go somewhere else. Because I'm all for banning words in different contexts for people who do get triggered. Right? That just makes sense to me. Like, if people can't deal with their, like, if something is so emotionally rough for them, then I would argue for having like they're talking about safe spaces for people like that. Personally, I don't want any safe spaces like that. But well, yeah, I do want safe spaces like that. I want both. I just don't want this to be a safe space like that, if that makes sense. It's just a reality of the platform I'm on, says Snowrunner. Yeah, it's just a reality. So we follow the terms of service. That just makes sense. Like, it's the context we're in. They made those rules. They want this to be like a safe space or whatever. I haven't read it, but I'm guessing that is what they want, a safe space. And I can, like, I don't mind. Colgate In on Tap says your stream doesn't have a K18 tag or whatever it's called. Oh, I thought it did. Maybe I should change that? I don't even know what that tag means, but maybe I should look into that. Yeah, I'll look into it after my afternoon nap. But right now, it's soon lunchtime. I need to find a better spot in the game to end. Like, Electronic looked at me carefully, appraisingly even. Did something happen? No, nothing. It looked as if I was making excuses, and a feeling of personal pettiness enveloped me. Why should I make excuses to him? Yeah, from this we can imply that he was following Shenya. I think we can imply that tomorrow. So I think this is a good save spot. Nodrunner says the weird thing is that they're totally inconsistent on what they enforce and who they enforce it on. I've heard stuff like that. It's almost better to look at the history of banning on Twitch rather than reading the terms of service. Oh, I'm one of those people, you know. I'm one of those people. Did not read. I didn't read. I'll just play it by ear. I'll play it by ear. I mean, I'm guessing that, like I said, I'm guessing that where they come from is like a safe space kind of ethics. Like, not triggering people and stuff like that. I mean, I can do that. mean, I feel like, yeah. I feel like the best way is to not to get too emotional and just talk about stuff, right? Let's talk it through. I feel like like the way I like talking about stuff with you guys. I don't know if you agree, but I don't see the way of our types of discussions would break that type of ethics. I feel we're being quite inclusive. That is what I want to be. Because as I said, that is the best way to talk to people and find disagreements, is being inclusive and having like I'm trying to, I'm not very good at it, but like being empathic or sympathetic. I always forget the meaning about those two. It doesn't really matter, but like someone that someone that disagrees with me and gets emotional about it. Let's be sympathetic and empathetic about it's being frustrating for people having those disagreements. Just like I get frustrated when people disagrees with me. I would want, like if we take the golden rule, I would want people to give me the benefit of the doubt and maybe just help me handle my emotions and move to a more constructive type of discussion. Nodrunner says, indeed. Well, that's meta discussions about discussions and about how I like them, I suppose. I'm guessing you like them as well, since you stick around. Alright, so we exit this game, yes. Nodrunner says, empathetic is when you're feeling what someone else is feeling. Sympathetic is more like when you can relate and feel sorry for them. That is why I have the problem, because in Swedish we have flipped those meanings. We haven't even flipped them. They mean different things, which is fucked up. It has fucked up my head because I did know this before. Now that I read you when you explain it, like I recognize this. It's when you feel what someone else is feeling. It's like when you see someone get kicked in the nuts and you get that. Ooh, that is empathy, right? Sympathy is more like a woman hurting when she's giving birth. I can relate and like I can feel sorry for you, but I don't feel what you're feeling, right? I can't feel what you're feeling. That's the way I had thought about it for a long time. But in Swedish, it's completely different, which just fucks up my head. So I don't know anymore, because I think empathy in Swedish is more like sympathy. And it's not like sympathy, not really. It's more like you making an effort. Like empathy is making a sympathetic effort. It's not just when you can, when it's where you make an effort to try to be. It's super fucking weird. While sympathy is more like, fuck, what's that word? There's a third similar word in English. It's not when you feel with them, but for them. Like Sam Harris has talked a lot about it. He argued that this is better than empathy or sympathy. I think it was Sam Harris, I don't remember. Like it's not having the feelings, it's more like recognizing that you have the feeling and not to feel sorry for you. Fuck. Oh, never mind. It's not important. They're all very similar. But I like that argument. Fuck, I got stuck. I think it was Sam Harris, I'm not sure. But he was arguing for, instead of like feeling when somebody else is hurting, it's, you get more, like again, like we've been in discussions, right? Moving away from your emotions and emotional responses and moving towards a more logical approach or whatever, more analytical approach, which will make you like, for example, think about an ambulance driver who's super empathetic, starts crying when they see someone bleeding out. That hinders action. Right. While moving away from the empathetic response and being more cold, I think people would say, being more to the point, this is what I need to do. Yeah. So it becomes super difficult because there are so many different ways to look at how you relate to other people. It's super interesting and difficult. But now it is lunchtime. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out today.